Right now, we don't know each other. I'm a stranger. And your senses are busy evaluating me. First thing you're noticing is, can I trust her? And is this going to be relevant for me? And most probably, do I like her? A face we don't know remains just that, a stranger in the crowd. But when we add the human touch of connection, that other person transforms into someone who matters to us. It's a small shift inside, but it's the magical glue that changes everything. Now, creating that real connection is easier said than done. And that's what I do for a living. I help people influence others by connecting with them. And I'm not sure if you know, but for whatever career you choose, if you end up working as a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or even a programmer, your ability to talk to people and make them like you is going to be the differentiator that opens the door. And although this might not be the skills that you're studying in your books, your communication skills will pretty much be your barometer of influence and success. I started my career practicing connecting by being an artist. So the first period in my life, I was practicing by telling stories and connecting with audiences. And then I realized it was actually more inspiring to help others connect, so I became a trainer. And this image behind me, I'm surrounded by a group of teenagers, and we're in the middle of rehearsals from putting on a theater show. And just after this, I transitioned and moved into the organizational world. So today, I help professionals achieve their goals by influencing and connecting. I call it finding the right kind of loud. So, the right kind of loud is that fine-tuned approach when you really reach the other person you're trying to touch. Often, when we think about communication, we think about our own message and what we need to say. But a good communicator knows that it's actually more about that other person. Who are they and what do they need? Sometimes the right kind of loud is to wait and find the right moment. Other times, the right kind of loud can be silence. Even as silence can be loud. And other times again, we need to raise our voice. So I'm going to show you some strategies that you can bring with you so that you can become influencers in your field and you can get better at connecting. So I started by saying that most probably you were scanning to see whether I came across as authentic. Because when we meet a new person, that's the first thing we pick up. Is this somebody we can trust? And one of the reasons it's not so easy to come across as authentic is because we tend to be in a mental space. We have so many deadlines and thoughts and tasks and things in our minds, so very often we kind of move around with a very, very big head like this, and the body is small and tiny below. And when I walk around in my world like this with a big head and a small body, there are some disadvantages. One of them is that when I'm in this state, like this, it will be easier for others to push me and to manipulate me. Let me demonstrate what I mean. I'm going to turn right now into a soldier. I'm going to turn into a Western soldier, so you can imagine I'm standing in front of Buckingham Palace. And you can see that my body center is up here, in my chest and in my head. So if we imagine that somebody would push me right now, I would pretty much fall over. And now I'm going to turn into a different kind of soldier. I'm going to turn into a Japanese samurai. And the way they stand is like this. So I'm making myself big. I'm lowering my head. And my center is all the way down here. So if somebody would push me right now, I would go away, but I would have the ability to come back because I'm centered down here and I have my whole self with me. Now, we also have it in our language. We talk about the butterflies in our stomach, and we talk about the gut feeling. In Swedish, we say is i magen, which means ice in the stomach. It's a way to keep your cool. And modern science has discovered that we have in our intestines a huge autonomous nervous system that is called the gut brain. So one takeaway for you that I would like for you to bring when you connect with others, during your days and your different meetings and conversations and games and whatever you do, to remember to stop sometimes and tune in and listen to that voice. Because I know that all of us have that gut brain that keeps sending messages, but when we are in our headspace like this, it can be easy to neglect it. And then I have takeaway number 2 for us. And that's what I call being rooted. Now, in my universe, when I work with these kind of skills, rooted means to be really present, to be really here. And one of the things that we use when we arrive in the presence and we connect is our voice. Our voice is a very personal tool. The word person comes from this. In Latin, per means through, and son means sound. So through my sound, I become who I am. And the voice is also a very intimate tool. Right now, when I'm speaking, the voice is created inside my stomach, and then it's traveling through my torso and chest. It's affected by the technical things that I'm doing, and then it becomes these sound waves through the air, entering your ear canals and becoming vibrations inside your bodies. Think about that. From the inside of my body to the inside of your body. That's how intimate it is. Even closer than skin to skin. Now, as a vocal coach, very often people ask me, so Kim, tell me, what is a good voice? And I say, there's 2 things. One of them is that the voice is body connected, that it comes from here. And the other thing is that the voice is elastic. We all know how boring it is to hear the voice that goes totally straight out like this. Nobody likes it at all. It's almost like it makes you sleep. So your takeaway to help you connect and be rooted when you connect with others is to use your voice as much as you can. Because the more you use it, the more dynamic it will be. So if you live in a family that likes to sing, join in. If you're one of those who feels like your voice is a little private and the shower moment is your thing, put some music on before you go in. And if you like karaoke, bring it on. Because the more you get to know it, the easier it will be for you to connect with it. And the third strategy I have for us today is to be responsive. There's an old cult movie called Pulp Fiction. And in that movie, Mia Wallace asks her guy, do you listen or do you wait to talk? Now, unfortunately, in a lot of situations that we're in, because we have this big head, we tend to wait to talk. There's many reasons to this. First of all, we're bombarded with messages and sounds and information. And also, we have a mind that's very fast and makes a lot of associations. So, for example, if somebody's talking to me and they say, I lived in Barcelona, and I go, oh, my cousin lives in Barcelona. Maybe they know each other. I have to ask. And this is great. It's fantastic for connecting. But there's a slight problem. While I'm up here waiting to say that my cousin lives in Barcelona, the conversation is going on. Now, a real conversation is a mystery. We have no idea where it's going to land. But when we're waiting up here to say our thing, we're missing out. And we don't know if something even more important, something deeper, something more relevant for us is going to open up. For me personally, this thing of letting go requires a little bit of faith. I have to tell my association, I hear you. If you're important, you're going to come back. So I can let go. And I can be present with what the other person is saying. And there's a tool that's super efficient that helps us be responsive and listen in and keep tuning in when we're talking to somebody. And that's this. Silence. Silence is becoming more and more rare. It's almost like a diamond or a real gem. And when we have a moment of silence, it refreshes our minds. So, Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, staying real, rooted, and responsive helps us get the right kind of loud so we can connect and go out there and leave our mark in the world. Sometimes, even though we bring all these tools along, it can be really hard to make that human touch in the connection. One of the toughest challenges I've faced was when I gave a workshop in this place. This is Vrisløselille Statsfængsel. It's one of Denmark's biggest state prisons. And at this time, I was inspired by giving creative writing workshops. And I asked myself, where would it be most uplifting and useful to share these tools? And that question took me here. A male-only prison with inmates who were serving long-term sentences for serious crimes. And from the moment I entered, I was met by skepticism. And one of the inmates, he had this menacing expression on his face that really scared me when I looked his way. I soon realized that the most difficult thing would be to share the text that we had been writing together. And at the same time, I knew that this part was crucial for the experience to be valid. It's that witnessing and listening to each other that makes it land. Now, these men knew the very least about each other. The reason they were serving their sentence was a secret for sure, and atmosphere was tense. By keeping very strong boundaries between text comments and personal remarks, I was able to make it work. And on the last day, we all sat and wrote a poem to our fathers. I'll never forget the inmate who had scared me before. He was reading his poem with tears streaming down his face, while everyone sat in silence. When I walked out through those gates, I made an inner bow, thanking these men for the courage they had shown me. Their outer walls were still intact, but their inner ones had a softening in that space where we had created the human touch among us. Now, very soon this event is going to be over, and you're going to go back to your studies. Before you know it, you'll plunge into an education and eventually land that first position, or maybe you'll create your own job. You have a world of opportunities ahead of you. And there's no doubt you're going to face many communication challenges and many people who are difficult to connect with. My wish is for you to bring these tools with you, staying real and listening in to that wisdom from your gut brain. Staying rooted and use your full voice. Staying responsive and refresh with a moment of silence so that you can become influencers and leave your mark in the world. Because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the stranger next to you is you. My hope is that at the end of this event, we are no longer strangers, and I would love for us to continue connecting with each other. The more real connections we have, the less the person next to you will be a stranger, they'll be a friend. And the more human touch this room will have, and the more human our world will be. May we all have the right kind of loud to reach each other. Thank you.